What makes some Christian movies succeed while others fail miserably? What is it about Christian movies that are so difficult to get right, yet some seem to hit so hard and so successfully, yet most of the time, most Christian movie attempts just fall on their face. They don't pick up any steam, they don't get any recognition. Honestly, a lot of times come off as very cringy and difficult to watch. Audiences have changed over the years, and so approaching it from today's media consumption, approaching this from a view of 2024 going into 2025, and seeing the ebbs and flows of Christian films, what has worked, what has not. I kind of have seen where there are methods to success and methods to failure. Stories like The Chosen have completely blown up online and in the internet space because partly it's provided for people to watch for free on the Chosen app, and so everybody is consuming it. But there's also been theatrical releases, there's been contracts on platforms like Peacock and now Disney Plus. The Chosen has been reaching many people. This is the modern day success story in Christian filmmaking. It is an episodic TV show. However, it's being approached in the same way that most TV shows are approached these days, from a very cinematic filmmaking storytelling approach. And how I got into The Chosen is actually the main point I want to make. I had been seeing ads for The Chosen on Facebook, paid advertisements about a new Jesus show, and it was kind of an indie project. It felt that way. However, my friend actually gave me a call and said, "Hey, have you heard about this show?" And I said, "No, I'm burnt out on the Christian filmmaking thing. I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to waste my time." He said, "Dude, this looks amazing. You have to watch it. I've seen a couple episodes. Give it a chance. It's free to watch. Go check it out." By the end of the first episode, I was hooked. When you watch the show, and progressively as the seasons have gone on, you have seen a consistent dedication to quality. And when I say quality, there's a lot of layers here, but the very surface level is cinematography. It is production value. It is casting without the sense of cheese, casting actors who actually know how to conduct themselves in front of a camera. When I watched The Chosen, I saw that there was a consistent dedication to dynamic lighting. I saw that there was beautiful cinematography, even though most of it was handheld on a Steadicam, especially for season one. It was still presented in a very cinematic approach using modern techniques. The story was engaging and it grips you with these characters in such a way that you no longer care as much about Jesus for the show, but the actual people that are following him, the chosen ones of Jesus, and all of a sudden it makes sense. So there's an intrigue nature here, there is a interest factor, and there's a new approach, a new angle to tell the story. So many times in Christian filmmaking, people who are completely inexperienced or went to film school but never did any work, were just kind of interested in filmmaking in general, they will pick up a camera or spend a bunch of money that they don't have to create a Christian film. And the big problem there is they're completely inexperienced. They don't know how to write a story. They haven't really studied or had any experience writing an engaging story with engaging characters. And so it kind of falls flat in a lot of ways, but especially in quality, in the quality of cinematography. And in 2024, going into 2025, the sacrifice of cinematic quality is just not something that today's audiences are going to put up with. The second reason I believe that Christian films fail is because it feels like a Christian film. You do not need to approach a film and say, "I am going to make this for Christians." There's a lot of people in the Christian filmmaking space that try to say, "We're going to make something for Christians by Christians." If you want your film to succeed, you shouldn't be boxing out your audience. As an example, the God's Not Dead series. This, in my opinion, is a completely ridiculous film franchise that they keep making these. And it's all built around this idea that in many ways Christians are persecuted in culture and that God wants to save the evil villain, the antagonist of the story, who is the non-Christian. It brings up and makes people who are already Christians feel good while pushing down and saying there needs to be some kind of conversion for the antagonist in order for this to be a Christian film. And in my opinion, that just doesn't come across well. You should not make a Christian film that is primarily for Christians. You should make a Christian film for all audiences. We don't want to see the Christian character persecuted representing Jesus in a story as the protagonist anymore. We want to see ups and downs. We want to see struggles. We want to see successes and failures in our characters because it creates relatability. So there must be an effort to not box in the type of audience you are going for. And I know that leaves the book wide open. And so the point I have with number 3, how are you going to define a Christian film? That's very, very important when you're approaching any kind of story you're going to tell cinematically. If it's specifically a Christian film, what do we define it as? If we're saying we're not going to make the traditional Christian film, how do we define that? I personally think a lot of different creators define that different ways. But how you define it is incredibly important to the success or failure of the movie. If you want to boil it down to something that can kind of be agreed upon, the end result of the film or series should be for the glory of God. That is a scriptural motivation. You can play in that playground and tell all types of stories and consider them Christian if the end result of the film is for the glory of God. Believe it or not, a horror flick can be a Christian film, a love story, a rom-com. All of these can be Christian films. Any genre can be a Christian film. Christian films is not a genre. A Christian film is a overarching blanket to safeguard certain aspects of your story. And then when you have that safeguard, you can tell any story you want inside of that playground. It is very simply to not dishonor God, but rather glorify God with the end result of the film. And from that, it becomes a Christian film.